As someone who's so interested in shooting technique, I marvel at the simplicity, aestheticism, and effectiveness of Klay Thompson's shooting technique. I've studied it endlessly and use it as a baseline against which to measure other styles of shooting. But the question for this video is, given these things, why is it so hard to imitate his technique, both in terms of the style and visuals, and in terms of the outcome? Why are there not 20 shooters in the NBA who shoot exactly like Klay Thompson, even though what he's doing clearly works so well? Why is it that no matter how hard we might try, we just can't shoot exactly like our favorite shooter, be that Klay Thompson, Steph Curry, or any other NBA star? At a surface level, the answer might seem obvious, but I want to talk over the answer in this video to see what we can learn about training to become better shooters from these thoughts. I think the first answer is one of nature. When it comes to, say, your vertical jump or your height, you understand that it's a combination of genetic and external factors, such as your diet when you were a child, that are totally out of your control and largely determine what kind of athleticism you possess. No matter how much you lift and train and eat, you'll never look or jump like Zion Williamson, and that's just an unfortunate fact of nature if you're trying to be a pro basketball player. But this intuition we have about athleticism sometimes doesn't seem to transfer over to shooting enough. Some people think that shooting is just a function of how hard you work on your shooting. And to some extent, I think you can make more of a difference on your shooting consistency by practicing than you can on, say, your vertical jump. But I have no doubt that some of the core traits important to elite shooting are genetic gifts. For example, the level of hand-eye coordination and precise body control over movements, otherwise known as your touch, that a player like Steph Curry possesses is clearly freakish, just like Zion's ability to generate power is. You could shoot more threes than Curry has in his entire life, and likely never reach his level of consistency. Just like you can't train and expect to jump like Zion, I don't think you can train and necessarily expect to shoot like Steph Curry. Another natural limiting factor is that of body shape and form. This is especially relevant to Klay Thompson. Thompson can have such an aesthetic shot because his body, including the relative length of his forearm and upper arm, the size and shape of his hand, and the flexibility and range of motion of his shoulder, elbow, and wrist, is optimal for shooting technique. If you don't share almost all of the same physical traits with Klay, why would you expect that you could shoot with the same technique and look the same while doing so? I think that's just not a realistic expectation for most people. The same is true for all these other great shooters that young players idolize, like Curry and Trae Young, to name a couple. Having said these things, the point of this video is not to say that you should just give up because you'll never look like your favorite shooter. Rather, it's to explain how you can have realistic expectations about your growth as a shooter, and also give some advice about how to imitate your favorite player correctly. Even though I think it's unrealistic to expect the same visual and effectiveness outcomes as your favorite pro player, I think there is still value in analyzing their various effective shooting techniques, selecting ones you would like to imitate, and then trying to implement them in some way or another in your own shot. So the next question is, how do you do that? My main suggestion in this regard is, rather simply, to just use video. The process of adjusting your shot should include a healthy dose of video. Record yourself shooting from multiple angles to see how you shoot. Break down your individual traits in the same way that I tried to do on this channel. Pick the ones that you want to change to look more like your favorite player. Out of those techniques, pick one to work on at a time, and consciously do one thing different to see what happens to your technique visually. Maybe you want to change your set point location. In that case, think about bringing the ball to a different set point, and see what happens. And of course, the key here is to continue to film yourself and review what you look like while shooting after you've made this conscious adjustment. Because, as I've learned by working with many players, what you think you look like when you shoot is often not what you actually look like to other people or on video. Keep reviewing film to see if you need to make a bigger or smaller mental adjustment. Through this process of adjustment and review on video, I guarantee you that you'll start to look more like the shooter that you want to be, and less like the shooter that you once were.